So Aetherdrift asks, what performance increase are they likely to implement before server meshing? So there's going to be a lot of optimizations that are needed with the replication layer, but they are one of the things that Benoit said specifically is that they expect a performance improvement on the DGS with the separation of the replication layer, and that but they know that they will have to do optimizations once it gets separated to get that performance increase. But they are going. That's something that they are going to be targeting on the road to server meshing. But I want to caution everyone about getting too tied, getting server performance and server meshing too tied together, because what they're targeting for 4.0 is very simple static server meshing, and that is not where we are
Did you
expected to get the
see?
performance increases. Hey,
Did you
Victor, good
see
to see
the
you.
Be at Con? Did you see the Be at Con Chris Roberts interview? The hallway interview.
With the one that Salty Mike reacted
Trotta.
to. Yeah, where he talked. Oh gosh, we should probably pull that
Classic
up.
Chris Roberts. Classic Chris Roberts decided that he was going to say, well, it's basically already dynamic server meshing. Don't.
Yeah,
You had these nice clear cut lines. It was fine. Don't say that.
the servers
get
are
what he
already
said.
spinning up dynamically. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and that one spins up when another dies, but that's not what we're targeting. But is he
It's
wrong?
like, he's not wrong. That's the problem. We had definitions for these words that people, like lay people, are using, and if lay people are using them, they need clear definitions. When you start rewriting over these definitions, you end up doing exactly the same thing you get from re-recording over a cassette tape, formerly known as gobbledygook. It's terrible.
Right,
Technically, the replication layer is server mesh 2.0. I mean, that's not a bad way of looking at it.
The proportion of the subversion.
Technically, it would be 0.05 and 0.0, or 0.0 and 0.05, because we have the replication layer existing. We had in 3.18, and then tier 0.5 we have in 3.23, being the replication layer split, which we now can recover off of the replication layer dynamically, I guess. So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. You guys you're making Naz and I do this. You are forcing our hands. So this is the clip of the interview. I guess there's more to the interview, but this is the clip that is getting shared around. And Salty Mike reacted to this, but we'll listen to it really quick.
Chris should definitely not be any authority on server mesh.
Yeah, that's the thing, is everybody's like, well, Chris said it. Chris is a gameplay guy. Chris does not do networking. That is not his thing.
There's a reason they hired an entire other company.
Yeah.
Chris fixed the physics issues, right? He bought another company to do the servers.
Yeah. That is multiplayer games and networking and all that stuff. That's not his cup of tea. It's not his bag. That's not where his background is. And so the only reason we are working towards server meshing is because the people that were already working on the project told him, well, hey, we could do this. And he's like, do what? And they're like, well, and they explain server meshing. He's like, that's a thing? He's like, well, it could be. We could do it. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, yeah. If it lets me do this, and this. And so that's where we are.
I still can't believe the Star Atlas people, the guys that they had for their service, literally said that this was impossible. Just straight up said it was impossible.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Well, actually. All right, let's watch this real quick.
The proportion of the subversion.
Yeah, I think we'll have a limited version of Dynamic this year. So.
Okay, on aura peut-être une version.
That's the important part. The rest is him just talking about, oh, well, now we have this and it's technically dynamic already, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. But Chris Roberts
yeah, no,
was just on camera
we've been saying that we might get a dynamic one by CitizenCon.
Yeah, and
Those are so cool looking.
the problem is everybody's like, Chris Roberts just said dynamic server meshing this year, and it's like, no.
Limited. He said limited version. Limited
Yeah,
edition.
listen to the words, and let's put this into context.
The preparation of the summermation.
Yeah, I think we'll have a limited version of dynamic this year. So.
Ok, on aura peut-être une
I think we'll have a limited version of dynamic server meshing this year. But he didn't say live. You have to remember, CR has been getting coached more and more the last couple of years, and you can see it in the verbiage from the letters from the chairman and how he's wording things in order to not make promises and not say dates and do these things in order to set expectations and not get shit on, essentially. He says a limited version of dynamic this year. Now we have the tech preview channel for testing things like dynamic server meshing. That's what we're going to be having a lot more tests of static server meshing before 4.0 goes live. They said a long series of tests. So when he says this, I do not think for a second he means in live, because he doesn't say release to live. He would, when he did the letter from the chairman in it was 2022, where he talked about 318 in live and December or wherever it was, and it was way off base on that, and everybody giving crap about that. And then the following letter from the chairman, he didn't say live, he didn't say release or anything like that. He was much more careful with what he said in order to not sound like he was promising or calling out dates. Here he is, not saying live, not in PTU or anything like that. He just says a limited version of dynamic. And I think this is probably a pretty safe bet if you are setting that expectation around testing it in the tech preview channel, which is where you would see this first before it goes to gets moved into a release candidate in Evo and PTU and all that stuff. So do not take this out of context. Do not put words into Chris's mouth and say, he said, dynamic server meshing live this, going live this year. No, he did not say that. You have to nitpick the words and accurately quote and source and cite things. And I think it's accurate to say that we might see dynamic this year, but I think it's probably going to be in a tech preview channel and not going to live. But we'll see. It all depends. They have to get a lot of data from the tests for static server meshing and 4.0 going live in order to continue to build the services that allow for not only the servers to scale, but the replication layer to scale, as well as the other microservices that are part of the hybrid service to scale to support more servers. It's not just a matter of spinning up more servers, that simulate the game universe. You have to spin up an additional replicant, which is the replication layer. You have to scale up the different microservices that make everything work. All these things that work in the background, like ATC, the air traffic control center, right now is just a thing that works on the server and it handles all the stations and landing zones and stuff. Guess what? That needs to be able to not be on the server, be run as a separate service, and B, scale up so that way if they spin up a whole bunch of servers and subdivide the universe, that now that the ATC is able to scale up to split and handle the increased load. Because if you're scaling up the servers to include more NPCs and more players, it means you have more of both, coming and going at landing zones and stations, which means you need a larger and more robust ATC scaled up to support that. That's just an example. And I want everybody to be like, oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah. It's not just the DGS. There's so much more to it, and they have to get all those things ready to scale up, because they have to scale up together in sync. Backstreet, no, that's Backstreet Boys. Yeah. Yeah. All these things have to stay in sync. And so they have to have these services that are able to scale and can communicate together with these services that tell them when to scale and what authority they have. Hey, the load is too much over here, and so we need to scale everything up. And when we do scale things up, now you're going to be in charge of this, and you're in charge of this, and now you have this, sphere of influence, and it's complicated. Static server meshing is, now that we've gotten past PES and the replication layer split, static is easy. Dynamic is hard. There's a lot more. There's a lot more going on. The big step was PES, but it's another pretty good sized leap going from static to dynamic.
Yeah, like PES was hard in that it was a whole new system and everything has to connect to it. Static server meshing is easy because it's just an application of the things they've already done. Dynamic server meshing becomes hard because it's moving parts. How much stuff is added is a lot lower to both the previous things, but the fact that everything moves, everything breaks.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are worried about 4.0 and static server meshing, and they're like, oh, it's going to be 318 all over again. Not 4.0. 4.0 isn't going to be 318 all over again. It's when they introduce dynamic server meshing and those 4 additional new services that handle all these things, and the updates to all the systems to work with it. Like they're working on a big refactor for the entire transit system to make it compatible with dynamic server meshing. Can you imagine what the trams are going to fucking do when there's one server, doing Microtech, the city, and the other one is doing the spaceport? Or if they subdivide like a damn amoeba, in the middle of a play session.
What happens? And this like unanswerable question here. What happens when during a battle the space between the two sides gets split on 2 servers?
Yeah. The edge cases.
Oh, the edge cases.
Yeah. It's going to be a wild ride, folks. You savor these moments with 323 and all where it got going on is the replication layer split and a whole bunch of gameplay and UI stuff. Because 4.0
it's
going to
be a really fun and really rocky way to 1.0. It's
yeah, we're gonna be riding that wave. We're gonna peak and then we're gonna go back down. So yeah, manage your expectations appropriately, and watch the podcast because we'll help you. We're gonna all hold hands and get through it together. Okay, now that we have Naz and I, we just did a react. We reacted to this. I'm gonna put that up on the YouTube. It's gonna do great.
Yeah, it is.
Pardon me.
First of all.
All right.